Hello everybody, my name is Ed Santos. Welcome to our Brazilian Portuguese for beginners. In this 10-week course, we are going to learn how to greet people several different ways Brazilians use formally or informally when greeting someone. We are also going to be able to talk about family, our family, and ask them about their families. We are going to learn some farewell, some ways of saying goodbye in Brazilian Portuguese. We have several different ways, formally and informally again, and we are going to learn some of the most important ones. And after that, we are going to be talking about age, asking them and replying about our age. And the difference between the verb ser and estar, both the verb to be in English. We are going to be able to talk about nationality, to tell them where we come from or ask them where they are from. And we are going to be introducing ourselves. We are going to learn at least 2 different ways to introduce ourselves. And tell people where and when someone was born, either ourselves or someone else, and ask them where and when they were born. And next, we are going to be talking about some professions and occupations in Brazilian Portuguese, what someone does for a living. And the last thing we are going to learn in this block is some very important verbs for when we meet someone for the first time or when we meet them for a few times, okay? This is not all, but it's a summary of the most important things we are going to learn in this 10-week course. After that, we are going to go to the next level. But first of all, shall we start? We are going to start with what's called pronomes. Pronomes. You don't really need to remember this word, but we need to learn them. Okay? They are the persons. For example, I in Portuguese is eu. 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 Okay? Say it. Eu. And then you in Portuguese is você. 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 Okay? Then he is ele. 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 So far we have I, eu, you, você, he, ele. And then we have she, ela. Ela. Eu, você, ele, ela. Pay attention here to the pronunciation of he and she. Ele, ele, ela, ela. So those are the persons of the singular form. Now, the plural of eu, yeah, the plural of I is we, nós. Okay? So eu, and nós. Nós. The plural of you, você, is vocês. You guys. Vocês. Vocês. I'm from São Paulo, so in São Paulo, the S sound is like S, vocês, which is in most parts of Brazil, most parts of Brazil. But Rio de Janeiro, for example, they do sh, so they will say vocês, vocês, or something very close to this, like in Portugal, okay? So singular, you, você, and plural, you guys, vocês. Then they, we have eles and elas. Okay, so eles is the plural of ele. So he and they, eles. Now, we need to understand here that when we say ele, of course, we are talking about a guy, a boy, but when we say eles, although the word refers to they, the guys, it doesn't really mean only boys. It could be a mixed group. For example, I could have one guy here, 100 girls, and I still would say eles. So we place in the masculine form, okay? But if you say elas, they, it only means girls, okay? So elas is the plural of ela, all right? So let's say once again, eu, você, ele, ela, nós, or in real, nós, vocês, or in real, vocês, eles, or eles, elas, or elas. As I'm from São Paulo, of course, we're going to adopt the way we speak in São Paulo, because I cannot do this accent or sort of accent from Rio all the time, okay? I won't remember. So, nós, vocês, eles, and elas. Now, you notice that here in the brackets, I have the word tu and then vós. Tu means you, so it's the same as você. It's not used everywhere in Brazil, so it's mostly in the south of Brazil. In Rio de Janeiro, they may use você or tu, depending who they're talking to. And in the northeast of Brazil, some places they may use tu. But everywhere else, we use você. So for this lesson, I'm going to be addressing you using você. Now, that's also used in Portugal. But in Portugal, whenever they use tu, it is very, very informal. Okay? Whereas in Brazil, it's just a question of adaptation. Some places they only use tu, like in the very south of Brazil, and but it's not more informal than você. So in Portugal, if they're talking to you and they don't know you very well, but it's not a very formal situation, they may address you using você. But if they're talking to friends and to children, they may say tu. Okay, as I am from Brazil, we are going to be using você. I'm from São Paulo, we are going to be using você. Now, vós is a very old language. People nowadays, in Portugal or in Brazil, they don't really use vós. Vós is the same as vocês, you guys. But we are going to be using vocês. You are going to find vós only very, very old books. Maybe in the church they may use vós, depending which church you go to, but definitely you don't need it, okay? And if you know what it is, let's say you are watching a play in Brazil, they may use vós, depending if it's Shakespeare, for example, but it's very likely that they'll be using vocês, only if it's something very, very special. So before we move on, let's say them once again. So you repeat after me, please. Eu, você, ele, ela, nós, vocês, eles, elas. Is it clear? I hope so. We are going to move on now to our first verb, the verb to be. So let's go and have a look. Okay, so let's have a look here at our first verb, which is the verb estar, okay? Or in English, the verb to be. You need to understand that in Portuguese, the verb to be has two different translations, okay? One is the temporary one, and the other one is the long-term or permanent one. We are going to start with estar, which is the temporary one. What does that mean? It means that, let's say, in your mind, you are using the verb to be, and you're talking about something that can change very quickly. so quickly that in a fraction of a second it can change. Like this. You are using a star. Okay? The other one we are going to learn later, it's going to be when you are talking about something that is a long term before it changes, or permanent, you will never change. And we are going to understand better when we get there. So we are going to start in a second, but first of all, I want to call your attention to something important. In English, when we say the verb is in the infinitive form, it means this, with the particle to in the front of it, okay? And that means it is in the infinitive form. It is in its primitive form. Yeah, it's not conjugated. It's not in the past, present, or future, and it's not in a person. I, you, he, they. It's just the verb. Okay? In Portuguese, when that happens, we look at the end of the verb. If the ending AR, ER, or IR, it is what we call to be in the infinitive form, which is correct. It corresponds to the to here. Okay? In Portuguese, we have three endings for the verb: AR, ER, or IR. They are the three main endings for the verb. Yeah? When we are going to place that verb in a person and in a tense, then what remains, what we are going to be using all of them, it is what we call the root of the verb. It repeats in all persons, in all tenses. Okay? What changes is the ending. Because in Portuguese, you look at the end of the verb and you know which person you are talking about, and if it's in the present, if it's in the past, if it's in the future, etc. Okay? So let's have a look and try to understand a bit better. So we have here the whole thing. We have the persons I'm talking about. Those are the persons. And you have the verb here in the present tense. So what happened was I took away the AR, and what remained is the root of the verb, which repeats in all of them, and the ending here shows that this verb is in the present tense. Now, we are talking about a star, which is an irregular verb. So in a language, verbs can be regular or irregular. Verbs are regular when the endings, for example, let's say in Portuguese, the ending for the AR ending verbs, the ending here in the tense, in the past, the present, or in the future, they will always be the same. Doesn't matter when you change verbs. For example, we have a star, which is to be. I could be used the verb falar, to speak, cantar, to sing, andar, to walk. They're all ending AR. They are regular verbs. So the ending here, taking away the root of those verbs, they would repeat for all of those verbs, would be the same. But because a star is an irregular verb, this ending here is for the verb star. When I have another irregular verb, the ending here is going to be different. Yeah? That makes it a bit harder to learn the irregular verbs. And they are very, very important, which means you have to learn them by heart. You have to memorize them one by one. Yeah? As you do exercises and practice and speak and write and read, etc., you end up doing it. You don't need to stress, but you end up doing, especially when speaking, eu and você are the most used one, so you get used to them quite quicker if they are irregular or regular. But it's a question of studying a lot, okay? Now, if that's okay, if it's clear, I hope so, let's move on, and we are coming back to regular, irregular verbs all the time, and you are going to get the idea what they are. So, we have here, I am, because it's in the present tense, so I am. Eu estou. Eu estou. Okay? You are. He is. She is. Você está. Ele está. Ela está. So, whatever the verb is, doesn't matter if it's regular or irregular, você, ele, ela, the verb is going to look the same, exactly the same. It's going to be pronounced, said exactly the same. So, for você, ele, ela, and also for the plural form, vocês, eles, elas, whatever the verb is going to look the same. Okay? And the pronunciation is going to be the same. Yeah? Nice. So, você está, ele está, ela está. Nós estamos. We are. Nós estamos. Okay? You guys are. They masculine or mixed are. They feminine are. So, vocês estão. Estão. Is another nasal word. We have the tilde here to show it's nasal. So, estão. Eles estão. Elas estão. If it's a bit harder for you, some people it is a bit hard. Don't worry. Don't you worry, because with practice you get there. All right? Slowly you get there. So, estão. So let's say the verb again. Estou, está, estamos, estão. Okay? Clear? Alright, that's how it should be. That's not what you hear Brazilians saying when you hear them. When you are in Brazil or talking to your friends. That's not what they say. Okay? So let's see what happens in a day-to-day situation. Eu and nós, you don't need to say. Whatever the verb is, any situation, you may start from the verb. And that's what Brazilians do. So instead of saying eu estou, they may say estou. And whenever they say that estou, it's clear to me that they mean eu. And the same happens here. They say estamos, and I know that they mean nós. Because if you look at the other verbs or the other conjugations, there's nothing else like estou or estamos. Yeah? But when we're talking about está, we have three different persons that belongs to está or is connected to está. So in here with those or with those, it's very important to know who the person is. So you may need to say them before the verb. There are situations where you don't need to say, when it's very clear who and the person you're talking to, who you both are talking about. Okay? For example, let's say you ask about João, which is equivalent to John in Portuguese. You say, oh, how is João? And if someone says, oh, he is fine. He's going to say, está bem. He may not say, ele está bem, because both of you know you're talking about João. Okay? When it's very clear, you may leave the person out and use or say from estar. Okay, or whatever the verb is. Doesn't need to be necessarily with this verb. The same happens here. Eles, elas. You may do the same. Okay? Clear? Yeah. Now, what happens with this verb? Brazilians don't really say estou, está, estamos, estão. In colloquial Portuguese, what they are going to do is estou will become to. To. So they will cut here, and they say this bit here, to. So when you ask them, how are you? They say, tô bem. Ah, tô bem. And you are there. You don't know what happened. You are waiting for eu estou bem, and you hear tô bem, and you have no clue what happened. Okay? Você está. First of all, in colloquial Portuguese, instead of você, they are going to say se. They cut the vo here and they say se, or like the alphabet letter C is se. That means você. So they say se tá. Se tá. Instead of você está bem, you hear se tá bem. And you have no clue what they said. Okay? We know that nós you can leave out, and they say tamos. Tamos bem. Vocês, the same as the singular form, they are going to say seis. And estão will become tão. Seis tão. That's colloquial Portuguese. I'm not telling you to use that way, to speak that way, but you are going to hear as a few times when you are in Brazil, or talking or listening to your Brazilian friends talking to each other. They will be using at some point. Now, my advice to you is to adapt to the situation. You are in Brazil, you are in an environment where people are speaking a better Portuguese, so you want to do the same as they do. But then you are in an environment where people are using colloquial Portuguese, and you have an option. You can either do as they do, so you can fit in, you can belong, or you can use the language as you prefer, using better Portuguese. Okay? As long as they understand what you are saying, that's fine. Yeah? I'm not telling you use this one or that one. As a teacher, I should tell you, oh, use proper Portuguese, but that's not going to help you if you cannot understand what they say, or if they cannot understand what you say. So if I am in Brazil talking to my family and my friends, and they say, how are you, Eddie, today? I'll say, oh, tô bem. I know it's colloquial, I know it's not really correct, but I'm in an informal environment, informal situation, why not? I'm just relaxing. Yeah? I don't have to speak properly 100% of the time. So it's up to you as well. Okay, so now we are going to move on to the next slide, where we are going to learn the whole thing, the affirmative, negative, and interrogative form. So let's go there. Okay, so in here we have our three forms. We have forma afirmativa, the affirmative form. Forma interrogativa, the interrogative, the question form. And forma negativa, the negative form. Okay, you are going to understand my pronunciation here when we have a look at the alphabet. So I don't say afirmativa, but affirmativa, interrogativa, negativa. All right? So let's have a look first on the statements. So I have here, there's nothing missing here, by the way. I have here, I am fine. So we have the whole thing now. And that in Portuguese is eu estou bem. Eu estou bem. Yeah? The new thing here is the word bem, which means fine, well, okay. And the pronunciation of words ending M is like ing. It never sounds like N for Brazilians. Okay? It's always ing or nen. So, bem. 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 It doesn't sound like bem. Bem. No, bem. Alright? I am well. Eu estou bem. If I want to shorten it, tô bem. Tô bem. How are you, Eddie? Tô bem. Tô bem. You are well. Você está bem. Or, shorter, cê tá bem. Cê tá bem. Yeah, you look good. You are looking okay. Yeah? He is fine. He is fine. Ele está bem. Or shorter, ele tá bem. We are okay. Nós estamos bem. Shorter, nós estamos bem. Even shorter, estamos bem. Three ways to say the same thing. Estamos bem. Alright? They are well. You guys are well, they are well. Vocês, which is not here, eles, elas estão bem. Or elas estão bem. Shorter. Okay? Clear so far? Alright? Now, that's the statement. What we do if you want to change this into a question. Different from English, we don't have to change anything, any order. It keeps the same. You keep it the same. If you are writing, you add the question mark. And that makes it into a question. If you are saying it, it's the intonation of your voice that's going to show that's not a statement but a question. So what happens is towards the ending you go up, yeah? You put more emphasis there, it goes a bit longer. So for example, before we said você está bem. If I'm asking you, are you okay? I will say, você está bem? Você está bem? So notice how the bem goes a bit longer, yeah? Você está bem? And before, as a statement, você está bem. Okay, so bem, você está bem? Let's try here. Are they okay? Eles estão bem? Eles estão bem? And so on, alright? If we had who, where, how, why at the beginning of our sentence, that would be imply that, oh, they are starting a question. But we don't have here, so the intonation of your voice, it is very important to make sure they understand that as a question and not an, you are saying, tell them something, okay? Now, what we do if you want to change this statement into a negative statement, we are going to need the word no, and in Portuguese, the word no or not, which we are going to put here, it's the same. It's the word não. 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 Always before the verb. So you find the verb and you place it before. In English, I am not well. So it comes afterwards. But in Portuguese, I not am well. Yeah? So, eu não estou bem. Eu não estou bem. Eddie, how are you? Eu não estou bem. Or shorter, não estou bem. Não estou bem. You are not well. Você não está bem. Você não está bem. Se não está bem. If I want to shorten it. Remember, if I want to say no, I am not, then I need another noun in front of my phrase. Yeah? And here I would say no, eu não estou bem. If that was the question was, are you okay? I could say no, eu não estou bem. But if the question is, how are you? Then I have to say, eu não estou bem. Não estou bem. Alright? He or she is not well. Ele não está bem. Yeah? Ele não está bem. We are not well. Nós não estamos bem. Yeah? Shorter. Nós não estamos bem. Even shorter. Não estamos bem. Alright? 3 ways to say the same thing. They are not well. Eles or elas não estão bem. Elas não estão bem. Okay? Clear so far? I hope so. That's so we have here the affirmative, negative, and interrogative form with the verb to be. Okay? Now, let's move on to our next slide and change the subject a little bit and learn about the alphabet. So, let's go. So, in Portuguese, o alfabeto. O alfabeto. The alphabet. Okay? O alfabeto. O alfabeto. Alright? The idea here is not to learn the whole thing today. You are going to need a few practicing it until you get memorizing and remember the whole thing. But let's have a look at the whole thing and see how it goes, alright? It looks the same as the English alphabet, okay? So, but when you say, it's different. So try to say after me as before. A, B, C, D, E, F. Okay? You should pause now, go back and try again. Yeah? A, B, C, D, E, F. Alright? This one here, the vowel, and this one here, some people may say different. Like I say A, but you may hear, now you're not going to hear much the difference here, but some people may say A, but A. Let's keep stick with A. So A, B, C, D, E, F. All right. Now, G, H, H, E. Yeah? So that sounds like this in English, yeah? But E. So every time you hear E, is I. Yeah? J, L, M, N, O, P, Q, oh, that's a difficult one. R, S, T, U, yeah, that's something very important to remember. Sometimes when you say you see some words in Portuguese, you go straight to say you as in English, yeah. But the sound in Portuguese is U. There's no eu. U. V. X. It's not like cheese, but she's. You know, when you repeat the word many times, it gets a bit weird, but yeah, she's. Z. Okay? Yeah? Now, we saw those ones here. I'll explain to you in a minute, but let's have a quick go back and let's say them in one go. So after me, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, X, Z. Alright? Okay? That's the alphabet in Portuguese. Now, you see that I have some blue letters here. It's because they sound similar to each other. In English, they would be sort of E, but in Portuguese, they are E. So all of them. So E. So B, C, D, E, G, P, Q, T, V, Z. All right? Okay? Now, those letters here in 2008 or 2009, I'm not sure, they were added to the Portuguese alphabet. Okay? it was when Brazil and Portugal signed an agreement to make the language closer. Okay, there are still loads of differences between the two countries, but they changed loads into the language to make it one language closer to the other. And Portugal had to do lots of changes. Yeah, Brazil had to do quite a few as well. And one of those changes, they decided to add those letters to the alphabet. I don't know if the Portuguese used them before, and I don't know why they decided to add them. What I know is we only use them in Portuguese in chemical names, elements, or foreign names. Okay, but we don't have, as far as I'm concerned, any words in Portuguese starting with them, which I think now, since they were added to the alphabet, at some point people are going to start changing the letters. For example, the word house is written with C, which is casa, which is the same sound of K. And I don't know, it's just as language evolves. At some point someone may start writing casa with K, or something like this. But we say them, we know them, we say them ka, 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 W, yeah, very similar to English, W, W, Y, 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 okay? K, W, Y. And that's it. We have the alphabet in Portuguese. All right? And you are learning it for two reasons. One of them, because we are going to, at some point, someone may say, how do you spell this? Or how do you say this in Portuguese? And especially when you are spelling it, it is when this comes handy. All right? And we are going to see those phrases in a second. But also, there is another thing. Sometimes you are going to see or hear some words when Brazil say, for example, good morning, and they say bom dia, bom dia. If you don't know, haven't seen that word before, and when you hear me say bom dia, you straight think about the letter G, because it sounds like G in English, but it's not how it's written in Portuguese. We are going to see that in a second. I'm going to use a different board just to write it down for you and explain to you when you hear some words, why and when, where it happens, this certain pronunciation. Okay, like the word day or good morning, bom dia. I should say dia, but it's not how it sounds in São Paulo or Rio de Janeiro. And I'm going to explain this to you in another board at some time soon. All right? So let's go there right now, and I'll explain to you how it works. Okay, we are now here using this board because I want to explain to you some letters and some sounds you may hear when you are there in Brazil or talking to your Brazilian friends. Okay? We are going to start with the letter D. When it is followed by E or I, it may sound like G in English. For example, the word bom dia. Dia, if you don't know how it is written, it is actually a D followed by I. So you may think, oh, it's a G. No, it's a D. So it's followed by one of those. It may sound like G. And I'll give another word here, which is the word city. Cidade, cidade, all right? It's not a rule. It doesn't happen all the time, and not everywhere in Brazil. For example, if you are in the northeast of Brazil, or if you are in Portugal, the D sounds like D. So they will say to you, bom dia, or cidade, or something similar to that, okay? And I'll give another thing. For example, do you know that film City of God? In Portuguese, it is Cidade de Deus. Cidade de Deus. So just to show you that it doesn't happen all the time. There is no rule that says that it should be sounding like G, all right? Now, E followed by E or I will sound like CH in English, okay? Ch, ch. For example, uncle is tio, tio. And here we have tomate, tomate. I guess you don't need translation for that one, but that's the sound if the T is followed by E or I. Again, it's not a rule, and in the northeast of Brazil or in Portugal, they will say tio tomate or something close to that, all right? Now, C followed by A, O, U will sound like K wherever you are. Brazil, Portugal, doesn't matter. Northeast, southeast, it sounds like K. For example, the word house, it is casa, casa, all right? But if the C is followed by one of those and has this squiggle thing here, which is called cedilha, it's soft on the C, so it sounds like S. For example, girl is moça, moça, not mocha, moça. And the same sound as in here, but without the cedilha, is going to happen when C is followed followed by E or I. For example, cidade. Or I'll give you another one, which is early. Cedo, cedo. Okay? It doesn't need this cedilha because naturally it is an S sound, so it's soft. All right? C, C, and so no hard sound there. All right? Now we have two more to go before I go back to the other board. R. R, it's a mess. Everywhere you go in Brazil, depending on the word that they are using, it may have a different sound. But the main four sounds we have in here, for example, double R sounds like H in English. So, yeah, carro, carro, okay, car, all right. And the same H sound here, it is when R starts the letter, the word. For example, street is rua, rua, okay. The Portuguese says this different, but it's very different, so that's Brazilian. Some places in Brazil like São Paulo and Rio de Janeiro, all right? Now, if it's one R followed by a vowel, it is very soft, like the word expensive, which is caro, caro. So an expensive car is then carro, caro. Okay, it's the other way around. Okay, you cannot say expensive car, but car expensive. Carro, caro. Okay, now when it comes at the end of words, like in verbs, for example, it's maybe very soft, but some people don't even say it. Yeah? And because they don't say it, for example, they are expressing the future tense, they may not even write because they don't know it's there anymore. But I'm from São Paulo and I say estar, estar, soft. Well, there is a difference between people from São Paulo and people from Rio de Janeiro when we say the R letter. Not only the S, like we say S in São Paulo and they say sh in Rio. And R is much stronger in Rio de Janeiro. Okay? So they may say the estar, estar, whereas I say star. And I'll give you another word here. Y is por quê. In Rio, it may be por quê, or something close to that. Okay, I'm not Carioca, I'm not from Rio, but I say por. All right? Now, last thing here is the H letter. In Portuguese, it is silent. So we don't say, like in English, hotel. We say hotel. Hotel. Okay? Got it? Hotel. And a man is homem. homem. As we are here, let's have a look at this as well. Brazilians don't say L as an L. We say U. So, hotel, hotel. As the Portuguese will pronounce the L, Brazilians won't. Okay, not like an L. We say it, but we say it as a sounding like U, hotel. Okay, and I'll give another word. For example, the word cool is legal. Legal, legal, okay? The Portuguese would say it, but Brazilians won't. And here we have a sound because it's followed by a vowel. If it's on its own, it sounds like oo, okay? And homem, remember when it ends the M, it sounds more like N or ing, homem, yeah? And if you place those in the plural forms, L generally makes the plural change into is, hotéis. You cannot just add an S there, hotels, no, hotéis. And M, there is no such thing as MS. We have to say homens with NS, always, okay? Now, the H is going to make a sound when it's preceded by a consonant and followed by a vowel. But itself won't have a sound. So here we have sho, nyo, lyo. So let's see, for example, I'll give you another word here. An animal, a beast, or an insect would be bicho. Bicho. Okay? Don't know if you can see, let me make it bigger. Bicho. Okay? Nho. A bird's nest is ninho. Ninho. And son, my son, is filho. Filho. Yeah? So it made that sound here, sho, nho, lho. But H is not pronounced. I hope it's clear. I hope you understood. If you need, go back, watch it again, try to pronounce it, and see if you get it. Most of it happens in São Paulo, Rio de Janeiro, and some places in Brazil and even Portugal. Okay, now we are going back to the other video, so I'll see you in a second. Okay, now that we know how to pronounce certain words when you hear them especially in São Paulo and Rio de Janeiro, and sometimes in other places, let's learn how to spell it, and how do you say that in Portuguese? Okay, so the first phrase we need is this one, como você soletra? Como você soletra? Como você soletra? Como você soletra? Okay, we have there the verb soletrar, which means to spell. So you're asking someone, how do you spell something? Okay? Or they are asking you, for example, they may be asking, how do you spell your surname? Como você soletra blah blah blah, so seu sobrenome. But let's suppose the question is this one, como você soletra, and you have a word. You are writing something, you don't know how to spell, you can ask a Brazilian. Como você soletra amizade? Amizade. Okay? And then the person is going to tell you A-M-I-Z-A-D-E. Amizade. Alright? And look the G sound here, yeah? Amizade. Remember, I'm from São Paulo, or São Paulo and Rio, we do this, okay? You may ask them, como você soletra cidade? But before cidade, what is amizade? Do you know? It means friendship, okay? So, how do you spell friendship in Portuguese? So, como você soletra amizade? Alright? Cidade. We saw on the board, cidade means city. Né? Como você soletra cidade? C-I-D-A-D-E. Again, de, cidade. And as I explained to you, some people may say cidade. All right? There is no rule about that, so I say cidade. Now, we'll go the same for all the other ones. We have here what we learned earlier, alfabeto. We have the word família, family, esposa, spouse or wife. Alright? Clear so far? Now, let's learn how to say, how do you say this? Huh? Now, here we have the verb to say, which is the verb dizer. Dizer. Another G there. Dizer. Huh? To say. So, how do you say? And before, because I did explain to you before, in Portuguese, we don't have the auxiliaries do, did, will, and would. Yeah? For the present, past, conditional, and future. We don't have. So we don't say, how do you say? We look at the verb here, and we know it's in the present. It's automatic, yeah, it's in our brain. So I know it's the present, so it's equivalent to how do you say that in Portuguese. But literally we have how you say. Okay, so get used to that because we don't have do, we don't have did, we don't have would, and we don't have will. Alright? So how do you say, how you say? Como você diz? The whole thing could be like this. Como você diz, something in English here, em português. Como você diz em português? Yeah? Remember the sound of U is U. Don't say Português. Yeah? Português. 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 Como você diz? Now I have a few words here in English. So let's see if you're good at this. Como você diz beer em português? Como você diz beer em português? If you ask a Brazilian, they would reply to you, cerveja. Cerveja. Okay? They go straight to the answer. They don't really say, I say cerveja. Yeah? They say cerveja. Okay? Como você diz friend em português? Amigo. Amigo. Huh? So how do you say friend in Portuguese? Amigo. Alright? Okay? This is one way to ask the question. Como você diz is quite specific, but we have other ways to say. So someone may say in a more vague way, how does one say? But I just put here, how you say. How do you say? Because I may want to know, how does anyone say this? Or how do you say? Yeah? But they could be the same. So how does anyone say? How do you say? Como você diz? Yeah? Como você diz alphabet em português. Alright? Now, someone that trying to learn English from you, Spanish from you, German, French, other language from you, they may just change here and they may say, como você diz, and the word in Portuguese, amigo em inglês, em francês, etc. Okay? So they may try to learn from you as you are learning from them. Alright? Clear so far? Very good. Now, up to here, guys, was the fun part of the lesson. Now it comes hard work. Okay? And we're going to leave this for our next lesson. And it's all part of the big block, but just warning you, it's time to give up right now. Okay? We are going to see now the very important information you should know when you are learning Portuguese. Okay? I'll see you soon.